Thank you for listening to Positively Trek, and we want to give a shout out to our patrons on Patreon, including Carl Morris, Joyce Marin, Jim Stoffel, Dave Garcia, Rick Young, and Paul D. Kinnear. We want to thank you for your contributions to the podcast. Now, if you would like to be a patron on Patreon, you can join us at patreon.com/positivelytrek, where you get early access to episodes, exclusive content, shoutouts, and associate producer credits. So thank you again for listening, and now let's fly.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Positively Trek with your hosts, myself, Dan Gunther, and my co-host, Bruce Gibson. Bruce, how's it going today?
I'm doing great. I mean, why not? We're going to talk about Star Trek. I mean, it's just like, this is the highlight of the day.
Oh, I hear ya. I love talking Trek with you. And I think we've got a fun episode for you today. We're going to be talking about the pets of Star Trek. And I mean, who doesn't like pets, right? So, we sat down. I came up with a list of pets, and there's a lot more than you'd think. And I'm sure I missed some, and we're going to talk about that. It's going to be a lot of fun. But we've also got some news to cover before we get to that as well. So actually, first of all, Bruce, do you have a pet? Have you ever owned a pet?
I have. I've had several pets over the years. I think the first pet I had was a guinea pig. That's when I was real little. Then we had a parakeet for a while. And then I remember having a rabbit. And then there was a gap for a while. And then we got a dog. And that's the only... When I was a kid, I don't want to depress anyone now that I think about it. But, I mean, we had my dog for 7 years. And I loved my dog. And he's the only dog I've ever had. And
oh wow,
somebody shot him. So
oh no,
I know, it was sad. It was
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I didn't eat for a day. Even when McDonald's food was presented to me, I still wouldn't eat it. I just wouldn't eat. And then there was a gap with no pets until and then I had fish. I won 2 fish at a carnival, and those lasted for a number of years. I mean, from I think middle school through high school into college. And I've had goldfish throughout the years, and they come and go pretty quickly. But I guess I did a good job with these. I had an aquarium, and they lasted almost a decade. Maybe not quite that long, but when I went away to Oxford for a summer to study theater, I came back, and one of the fish had committed suicide. My parents were like, "We don't know what happened. We came in your room, and it was lying on the floor. It must have missed you and jumped out of the water."
Oh, my God. Oh,
so then I had the one, and then we were moving, and I couldn't take care of it, so I released it into the wild, into a pond. But since then I didn't have pets for a long time until shortly before I got married. I got a cat because a girlfriend of mine was like, you need a pet. So I got a cat. And then when I married my wife, she had a cat. And then those cats passed away. And now we have 2 twin sisters that are about 5 years old now. So that's my quick and dirty pet stories. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I've had dogs all my life growing up out on my parents' farm. Really great companions, just so many great memories, especially one dog that I had for most of my life named Jazz. Just a great dog. She was an amazing border collie, incredibly smart. We've also had cats out on the farm. They're, pets, but mostly, mousers that, lived on the farm and took care of the mouse problems for us. So, pets / working cats, I guess. And I think I had a hamster when I was really young. I remember having a hamster. I don't remember a lot about him, but I'm pretty sure I had a hamster. And then we had fish for a while as well at my parents' place. Since being on my own, I've, lived in a bunch of apartments where I couldn't have pets and all that sort of stuff. Now I have my own house with my wife, Nikki, and we keep talking about getting a puppy at some point, but it hasn't happened yet. But with Nikki, we also did have a pair of gerbils for a while here. She's had gerbils most of her life growing up, so we had a pair here as well for a little while. That's the last pets that have been in this house, though, were a couple of gerbils. So maybe a dog someday.
So have you ever named any of your pets after something in fandom?
Oh yes, yeah. Lots of cats over the years. I remember there was one really big puffy cat that I called Tribble.
Nice, I love it.
And I did have a dog at one point named Dax.
Wow.
When I was younger. Yeah.
Symbiont in it? Like, yeah.
Hopefully not. Usually if there's worms in your dog, it's a bad thing.
Oh, yes. So. I remember those.
But yeah, and I'm sure there were cats over the years that I can't remember their names, but I know that I did go for some Star Trek names at some point.
Yeah, the two cats we have now, they're really my daughter's cats, so they named them. But my cat before that was Leia, as in Princess Leia from Star Wars. But I did try several Star Trek names, but my girlfriend at the time, we got the cat together. I mean, it was my cat, but she was involved in the whole thing. And every name I'd come up with, no, we're not naming something Star Trek. No, we're not naming Star Wars. And then I said Leia, and she thought I was shortening Himalaya. She goes, oh, yeah, because she's part Himalaya. Oh, I love that. Yeah, short for Himalaya. And then when we went to the vet and I signed the card, Leia is her name. She goes, that's a weird way to spell it. I'm like, that's how Princess Leia spells it. She goes, oh, I'm going to kill you. So I got her.
Oh,
so I won.
Awesome.
But yeah, but we'll get more into pets later.
Someday I want a dog named Con so that like we're out at the dog park or something, they're far away and I can just yell, Con!
That would do it. Now, would you yell it like Kirk or like Spock?
Oh, Kirk.
Nice.
Oh, man. But yeah, well, like you say, we'll get to the pet talk later as far as Star Trek pets, because we do have a little bit of Star Trek news, not a ton, but some things to mention here. The first of which is Star Trek Strange New Worlds has officially wrapped its production on season 1. So I'll have a link to a story over on TrekCore where there's a video available if apparently you are in the right geographical region, with Anson Mount announcing the wrapping of production on season 1. So with the wrap of season 1 production, Bruce, how excited are you for Strange New Worlds?
Well, I'm extremely excited, especially the news we got on Star Trek Day. Seeing the cast and the characters that we're getting. I mean, I've been excited about this thing before they ever announced it, hoping that they were going to do this, especially when we're seeing scenes in short tracks, thinking, is this a test to see about making a series with these characters on the Enterprise? So I'm really pumped about this.
It's on its way, and it's going to be released sometime in 2022. So, the infamous month of sometime, and the particular day in that month being someday. So presumably after Picard is done. Picard, we know, is coming in February after Discovery wraps its run. So presumably sometime in the spring after Picard is when we'll see this, but no set release date yet.
Yeah, as long as it's not December of 2022. That's just like way too long. No. But yeah, I can handle spring. I can handle summer. I can wait because we're getting so much other Star Trek stuff. So, I mean, if this was the only thing that we were getting, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I want something like soon. But because I know we're getting all these other Star Trek series in the meantime, it's like, okay, I can wait.
Well, the only other piece of news that I want to touch on briefly is something we've talked about before, but it has now since happened. And that is, of course, William Shatner journeying to the edge of space aboard the Blue Horizon. I wanted to talk about this a little bit because I was a little bit, I think last week when we talked about it, dismissive of this and just kind of a little bit blasé about it. And I have to admit, I still have mixed feelings about it. I still have various warring views in my head, many of which are hypocritical. Like if I had the opportunity to do this, yeah, I would absolutely do this. So, my criticism of it was probably a little bit hypocritical last week. But I wanted to touch on this again because I did watch, not live, but I did watch the launch and the return to Earth and the comments by William Shatner afterwards. And I do have to say, I was really moved. I was really amazed by the profound emotion that Mr. Shatner displayed and this experience gave him, because it was really moving, and his observations about, the thinness of our atmosphere and how quickly he blasts through it, and just how small everything is compared to, the depths of space, and all of this stuff. It was really profound and moving. And I just wanted to make a comment that I'm really envious of him for having this experience. And it was way more moving than I ever thought it could be.
I am so glad to hear you say that because, yeah, I was surprised that you put this in the notes because I did want to talk about it. And I knew you were kind of like, about the whole thing. And I was like, Dan probably doesn't want to talk about it. But it was something that, I did feel emotional about when I watched it because I did watch it live.
That's cool.
That was kind of an accident. It wasn't planned. I mean, I wanted to see it live, but I wasn't sure when and when. And I just like, whatever. But it just so happened that morning I got up and have a TV in our bathroom. And I turned on the news and they were watching the clock saying, oh, he's going to, they're going to take off in about 45 minutes, but the clock has been halted. And so we don't know what's going on, but probably in the next, 45 minutes to an hour. And I was about to come down to my office for work. And I thought, well, I'll just stream it live, not using the news site, but I went to the Blue Horizons website and watched it live there. And I mean, my heart was starting to pump because I remember watching the Challenger live. And anytime I watch anything go out into space live, I get those feelings of, oh my God, I hope nothing bad happens. Watching this take off and now knowing that William Shatner's on there, I thought, oh my gosh, again, it's like, oh, I hope everything goes fine. And what if something happens? I mean, I could be sitting here watching the death of Captain Kirk right now, and I was just like, this is a bit scary. But I was also very excited because as I'm watching it go up into the horizon, going, deep up and, well, not deep into space, but just going up into space, I just thought this is a big Star Trek moment. Because as the commentators are talking about, and I knew that the news outlets, of course, would also always reference Star Trek. And I mean, this is a flight that is being acknowledged towards Star Trek because William Shatner's on there. And I thought, Star Trek's about going to the stars, and now we're seeing one of its stars going up. And it meant something just to see that and know that he was having that experience and the others that were with him. Anybody that goes up into space, it just means a lot. And just to see how that rocket just lands itself back down perfectly on the pad.
Incredible technology.
Oh my gosh. I just was like, are you kidding me? And I started to tear up. I was just like, this is great. And then they landed and waited a while and stuff. And yeah, all the things that he said about the blue, and it just like quickly goes away and it's just black. It's just nothingness. And he's like, is that death?
He called it.
Yeah.
Oh, chilling.
Yeah. And it's just thinking, because I mean, of course I don't know the man personally, but I've heard him talk about things of like, he's 90 years old and he's afraid of death, and he keeps himself busy because it's like his way of running from death. If he keeps himself busy, he won't die. I've heard him say that.
Mm-hmm.
And just that kind of experience of like, here's another thing he's doing, something big. And that experience of like, is that death? I'm thinking, well, that's the thing he runs away from. So he probably was scared when that happened, put some fear into him. But yeah, now he's humble about the whole experience. And it's just, I mean, it's like he said, and I've heard others say it, you can't put it into words. You think you know what it's going to be like because you hear it, but until you actually experience it, there's no way to describe it.
Mm-hmm. And I love that he said that everybody on the planet needs to experience this.
Yes.
And yes, please. But no, even besides that, like, what a profound, life-changing experience. And he also said something that resonated. He said, I hope I never recover from this. Mm-hmm. And I love that line. That was amazing as well. And so at 90 years old now, the official oldest person to go to space as well. So Captain Kirk and William Shatner entering the history books as usual, so very, very cool.
Yeah. One of the astronauts, in quotes, that went up, who actually formerly worked at NASA, I think his name's Chris, he mentioned that, I think this is before the flight, that this is a historical moment, not just this flight, but even the one before it, that now we have just regular citizens going into space. And so the history books will reflect on this. Mm-hmm. And at some point, it will become something that's more common and people will be living into space, but they'll look back at these moments as these were the first. And isn't it cool that Star Trek is a piece of that? It's just really cool, the whole thing. I mean, even just like, what happened in the 20th century of getting to space, and those are trained astronauts, and now here we are in the early 21st century and just regular citizens. That's the next step right there that has just happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point as well about this being in the history books and possibly influencing and giving inspiration to the next generation and the people that come afterwards. We can talk about memes and funny stuff, but there was one that I loved where it was screen grabs from the episode Metamorphosis, where Kirk meets Zephram Cochrane, the inventor of warp drive. Kirk says, "I've always wanted to ask, what was your inspiration? What made you decide to go to the stars?" And he said, "Well, I was a young kid and I really liked television and movies. And there was one actor named William Shatner, and he went to space, and it inspired me to create the warp drive." And I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. But, the serious takeaway from that is, this could absolutely inspire people to do the next thing. There's definitely reasons behind it and all that kind of stuff. So I don't want to be as blasé dismissive about it as maybe I was last week when we talked about it.
Yeah. And this might inspire some people to watch Star Trek,
Yeah, that too.
I mean, man's first steps on the moon in 1969 and Star Trek hitting syndication, all was like perfect timing. People were all of a sudden really interested in the space program. And now we may see this because resurrection of excitement about space, because normal people are going to say, look, there's people like me going up there. I don't have to have gone through all this education and become an astronaut. That's something I'll never achieve. But now I'm seeing people like myself that can go there. I mean, it's expensive. You don't have the money for it. But now we're starting to see that regular people could go to space, so it starts to feel more real. And, there's that Star Trek guy. And you know what? I need to start watching that Star Trek series.
Definitely. Well, we'll keep our eyes on the real prize here, which is increased subscriptions to Paramount Plus. So
that's the whole point right there, people.
Well, if you want to subscribe to Paramount Plus and watch Star Trek, you might see some furry friends that populate those episodes of the various series and films that make up the Star Trek universe. And that's what we're talking about in the discussion part of the episode today, the pets of Star Trek. And for this one, I've used a fairly broad definition of pet for some of these. But every single thing that I have on this list here is on the list for a reason. Now, before we started recording, Bruce, you said I might be missing some from this list, which I'm excited to hear about because this was all just off the top of my head. And I'm sure I've missed stuff, and I'm excited to see what we have to add to the list. So,
yeah. Well, I noticed that even before we start recording, you added 2 more. So they're still popping in your head.
They do. Yeah, there are a few that are popping into my head. And I have kind of 2 lists going. I have like the list of pets. And then I have honorable mentions that, maybe don't get to be on the premiere list, but, we should mention them because I think they deserve a little shout out as well. So,
yeah. And this was going to be our topic 2 weeks ago before Noah crashed the party, Noah Aberback Cats. So this list was done 2 weeks ago and you're still adding to it.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny you bring up Noah Aberback Cats because first of all, cats. Ha ha ha.
Ah, yes.
But second of all, his character of Rin in Star Trek Discovery did get to interact with one of the pets on our list in a very memorable scene. And that, of course, is Grudge, Book's cat, the Queen, the big, huge Maine Coon cat that we met in season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. So I'm going to go kind of jump all over this list in various orders. I'm not going to stick to a particular order. So I figure this is a good place to start. Grudge definitely made her presence known in season 3 of Discovery and led to some great scenes between her and Book, her and Commander Burnham, and her and Tilly, and of course her and Rin in one of my favorite scenes when he's freaking out when she's on his lap in the ship and stuff. So what did you think of Grudge?
Grudge kind of scares me. Grudge, I feel like, could take me down. Grudge is a big cat. Cute. And I do love the scenes with Grudge because it's just, I like the little cuteness stuff that comes up every once in a while. I think my favorite Grudge scene is when Tilly was holding Grudge, and Grudge got on her back, and she's like, okay, oh, no, I can't. No, yeah, whatever. I think that's my favorite scene. I'd like to see more Tilly and Grudge scenes.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun because apparently Tilly doesn't do well with cats, is what the character said. Now, Mary Wiseman is another story. Apparently she loves cats, and I think that came across a little bit in that scene as well.
Because her husband's last name is Katz, right?
Well, there you go. Yeah, Averback cats. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and we have the Book of Grudge that is coming out.
Yes.
So
we'll have to keep an eye out for that and talk a bit about that when that comes out.
Yes, that comes out December 7th. So look out for that from the Hero Collection, Eagle Moss.
Let's stick with cats, I guess, for now. There's kind of different categories of pets, and cats is a big category here. And of course, probably the most famous cat in all of Star Trek, and right up there with Grudge, is Spot, Data's cat. Now, I'm going to throw a little wrench into the works here because which Spot are we talking about?
I was wondering.
So when we first see Spot, he is a completely different breed. I can't remember the breed. But then later on, we see Spot and he's an orange tabby cat, and then transforms into a female tabby cat in season 7 of TNG and gives birth to kittens. So what is now, Bruce, you're famous for twisting parts of canon so that they make sense and making sense of all that stuff. What is your fix for the Spot dilemma?
Oh, wow. I feel like we talked about this one time and I came up with something and I can't remember exactly what it was. I think one of the ideas was that it's always been a different Spot, that, maybe a Spot dies and so he gets another cat and just keeps calling them Spot, like maybe there's Spot 1, 2, 3, and 4, but he just doesn't call them Spot 2, 3, and 4. They're just all Spot. That's one thing. But I don't know. I remember there was something about, I don't know. I think one other thing is Data's probably doing kind of like some experiments where the sex of the cat and this type of cat changes. I don't know. There's got to be something where Data's doing something that causes the cat to change.
Yeah, there's the old joke that Data is a very bad cat owner and also very unimaginative. So, accidents keep befalling Spot. Or keeps getting new ones.
I think that Worf somehow does something where he kills the first Spot by accident. Some accident happens, and so he goes to replace it, but he doesn't pay that much attention to cats. So he doesn't remember what exactly the cat looked like. So he just got a cat and hoped that Data wouldn't notice. And then Data is like, Spot looks a little different. And Worf just says, cats do that. They change over time. And then Data's like, interesting. And then something else happens and poor Worf has to replace the cat again. And he keeps replacing the cat and Data doesn't really notice, but does, and they just explain it away, and so Data just accepts that. I'm just picturing Worf and Geordi in collusion on this, of trying to convince Data that it's still the same Spot.
I like that. Or Spot is just maybe a shapeshifter of some sort. And
we did talk about that one time. I remember that was the other thing. I like the idea that Worf accidentally keeps killing Spot and replacing him. And then he gets the nickname on the ship as the Spot Remover.
Ooh, I like it. It's funny you bring up Spot 1, Spot 2, and Spot 3 and stuff. One pet that I didn't put on this list is actually from Star Trek Picard, and we meet Spot 2, according to Alton Sung, in the last couple episodes of the series. So it was at that moment that I remember they said, oh, this is Spot 2. And I was like, really? 2?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, yeah, we'll believe that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but that's the other thing. I mean, we just assumed that Spot is an Earth cat, and maybe to your point, like shape-shifting, maybe it's a species of cat from some other planet that, it changes over time. And maybe it lives for,
be.
100 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a couple other cats on this list on the main pets of Star Trek. I'm going to jump to Chester, which is, do you remember who Chester is?
Well, that's the one thing I want to mention to everybody listening is Dan put this list together, and a lot of them I recognize and some I don't, but I didn't want to look them up. I want to discover this as we're discussing this. I don't know who Chester is. I don't remember, but I'm just going to guess maybe from Voyager. That's just a guess.
Not quite.
No.
From Deep Space Nine.
Chester.
And there's a 6th season episode called Honor Among Thieves, where Miles O'Brien is undercover for Starfleet intelligence, spying on this guy named Bilby. And what ends up happening is he has to betray Bilby, and Bilby ends up having to basically go meet his death. But he has a cat named Chester, and Miles O'Brien at the end of this mission takes Chester and basically adopts him as his own pet. And I always thought, Star Trek is bad for this, where we get something like that and then we never see them again. But we do see Chester again later on in, I think, most notably in the episode Time's Orphan. And we see that Molly has really taken to Chester and loves having him as a pet now. So he does stick around a bit and we see him again.
Nice. Yeah, Chester's a cutie, gray and white. I'm looking at Chester now. I hadn't forgotten about that one. That's a good one. That's a good one, Dan. That's one I would not have thought of.
So there is one other cat on this list. Do you know which one of the remaining pets on this main list is a cat?
So not on the honorable mentions list. Does that include that?
Nope.
Okay, just
going on the main list.
Why I'm not gonna name them. Gosh, I'm gonna. It's between two. There's one in here. I'm not sure. I'm gonna say it's Neelix.
You are absolutely correct.
Okay.
Do you know who owned a cat named Neelix?
Was it Naomi?
No, actually, it was Reginald Barclay.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I remember that now. I do remember this. Yes, I was thinking when you made this list, I was like, Neelix. I was like, wasn't that a cat? I'm thinking it's got to be on Voyager. But yes, I remember that.
I was wondering what you thought of having Neelix on this list, and if it was like, did Janeway consider Neelix a pet? What's going on here? But nope, this is for the cat named Neelix, owned by Reg Barclay. I think we only see Neelix in the one episode, Pathfinder. A beautiful white cat. And kind of getting into Deanna Troy's ice cream, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that's a good one. Wow, I haven't watched that episode in a while. Now I want to go watch that one. Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. Again, I probably wouldn't have thought of that off the top of my head.
Well, that's it for the cats on the main list. Now, honorable mentions, we do also have a cat. And that would be Tasha Yar's cat from the TNG episode Where No One Has Gone Before. We see a little bit of a flashback when their memories, their thoughts are creating reality. And we see that she had a cat on Turkana 4 when she lived there, the failed Federation colony. And the reason I did add this to the list at the last minute is because we get a little bit more about this cat in a novel that we read for a book club episode. I think it was Survivors, a TNG novel by Jean Laura. And we get a little bit about that cat in this novel. I can't remember if it's named at all. I think it must be, but I can't remember the name. So I just have it here as Tasha's cat. So not an official big featured one, but definitely an honorable mention.
That's a good one. Yeah, I didn't remember Tasha's cat. Yeah, we read Survivors. I don't remember, if there was a name. But again, that's one I would not have thought of.
Well, I guess we should probably move on to dogs, because that's the other major pet category. And, if you're asking me to choose, I would say that I'm a dog person. Would you say you're a dog person or a cat person?
Oh, man, I hate this question.
That's the big question, right? And you don't have to choose, but...
Well, no, because I've always thought of myself as a dog person. As I mentioned earlier in the show, I had a dog when I was a kid. And, I would say that was... I hope my other pets in heaven aren't listening right now. But I would say that was my favorite pet of all time. And I was never really that interested in having cats. But when you were talking earlier about having apartments, that's one reason why I end up with a cat, because my girlfriend at the time, we were talking. I was like, I'd kind of like to have a pet, but I didn't want a dog because I was barely at home. Like, I was always out. I was single and I was always out and I was always doing stuff. I was like, I just felt like the dog being trapped in the apartment and I'm not there to let it out to do its things and all that stuff. So that's why I got a cat. But I still don't have a dog for two reasons. One, again, it's just, to me, it's like, I have to take it out walking and do other things with it. Cats, they kind of do their own thing. So that makes it easy. Plus, my wife is allergic to dogs. But I would like to have another dog someday. I just don't know if that's going to happen because of her allergies. But I would say I'm a dog person.
Yeah, I'm definitely a dog person myself. I've had cats and dogs, but yeah, dogs to me have always been my favorite pet. So you can imagine how excited I was and how happy I was to see the wonderful beagle that belongs to Captain Archer in Star Trek Enterprise, Porthos, played by a couple different beagles, most often played by a female beagle named Breezy, apparently. But yeah, Porthos just added such an amazing bit to Enterprise. I always loved seeing it. Actually, I have a next door neighbor now who owns a beagle. She's quite a bit older than Porthos was, but I definitely see Porthos in her. So I'm like, that's pretty cool.
I was prepared to come on the show and have you ask me, out of all the Star Trek pets, which one is my favorite? So I'm just going to say it's Porthos because,
okay.
Again, I think I like dogs better than cats. But again, I've had now 4 cats, I guess. But, I don't know. Porthos was just there a lot, It's the captain's dog. He was so cute. He even got a comic. He's the only comic in Star Trek Enterprise ever to be published, and it was about Porthos. So that's special right there.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm a huge Porthos fan. I was thinking of that might be how we wrap this up, is ask who your favorite is. But spoiler alert, it's the same for me too. Porthos is my favorite Star Trek pet for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, if I got a beagle, I'd want to name it Porthos.
That'd be pretty cool. We should also talk about the Mirror Universe Porthos, I guess. We only see him very briefly, but, definitely a much meaner looking dog than the lovely little beagle that we get in Enterprise. Yes. So yeah, there's that as well.
Yes. I like our Prime Universe Porthos the best.
Definitely. Well, other dogs in Star Trek history, Star Trek Picard came along, and I remember the run-up to the series, I was really excited to meet number 1, Picard's dog from Star Trek Picard, who didn't have as big a role in the show as I was kind of hoping that he would, but still very lovely to see this dog. What did you think of number 1?
Well, isn't Patrick Stewart a big proponent of pit bulls?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people raise their pit bulls in the wrong manner, make them aggressive, and he's trying to show that they can be sweet dogs. And so I think he wanted this dog in the series. But then I've also heard that this dog was a bit of a difficult thing on the set, that they had some issues, nothing bad, but just like having to do retakes and the dog's not doing what they need to do. And that's why in one of the early scenes in the first episode, Porthos is sent inside just to get him off the set because he was not doing what they needed him to do. But I mean, that's behind the scenes. But number 1, the dog on the show, I thought it was cute. I thought it was cute to have that dog there for Jean-Luc Picard and, number 1, And it also kind of creeped me out that he called it number 1. Because, I thought, is that how we felt about Will Riker? He just wanted to reach up and just scratch his head and go, number 1.
Well, I feel like if Picard equated Riker's loyalty to that of a trusted companion like a dog, I think of that as a compliment.
Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, number 1 added a lot to the show, I think. Wish he could have been in there more, but yeah, like you, I'd heard that he was a little bit difficult, so that's too bad for sure.
Yeah.
The other dog on this list is definitely one that I don't know if maybe it deserved a place on the main list here, but I wanted to put her on this list, and that is, of course, the dog from Star Trek Lower Decks, season 1, Tendy's genetic experiment. And again, for a couple of reasons, maybe doesn't belong on this list. She's only in the one episode. And is she really a pet? She seems kind of sentient and goes to live on the farm where the Starfleet medical oddities people all live. So I don't know. And not a normal dog by any stretch either. But I did want to talk a little bit about her because I think she's so cool.
Wow. Okay. That one got me because on the list, I was like, what is the dog? That's so generic. And I thought I knew what it might be, but I totally forgot. Yeah. Lower Decks. That's not what I was thinking. That's not what I was thinking at all. Yeah. I think this counts as a pet for sure. Now it just reminded me of Dynamut. Dynamut was an old Hanna-Barbera character that was like cousins with Scooby-Doo or something. Because he wasn't like a real dog, but he still was a dog or whatever. But yeah, good call. Yeah, I forgot about the dog from Lower Decks. We need more pets in Lower Decks. I think that show could really play off pets in a big way.
Yeah. We know there are at least a couple other dogs on the ship because the one at the end of that episode licks Tendy. And Tendy's like, oh, what the hell? Dogs lick people? Gross.
Yeah.
So for honorable mentions for dogs, I had Molly, who is Janeway's dog, and we never actually really meet her. So that's why she's just on the honorable mentions list. We see a picture of her a couple times, most notably in the series premiere of Voyager. But we never really get to meet her. But she's a beautiful, I think, Labrador.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that. But
I think you're right. Yeah. That one, yeah, I do remember that one. I do remember Molly. Yes, but you're right. We never get to meet Molly. We just see the picture. I think we probably had novels where Molly's in. I just can't recall.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and of course, the autobiography of Catherine Janeway, I think, mentions her by Una McCormick.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, good one. Keep it going. Okay, so I'm holding the ones that I think are not on this list. I do have 2 of them now.
Cool. Well, I've got 2 more pets, I think, that are on like the main list. And one of them is only in one episode, but I think is influential enough that it deserves to be on this list. And that is Spock's pet Sailot, Ichea, from the animated series episode Yesteryear. And this is a wonderful episode, probably my favorite episode of the animated series, where Spock uses the Guardian of Forever to go back in time to guide himself as a young man. And over the course of the episode, we meet Ichea, who's his pet Sailot, who ends up dying and is a great life lesson, a very influential moment for young Spock as he learns the lesson of what this imparts to him and what he learns from this. So yeah, Ichea, I think, definitely deserves a place on the list of great pets of Star Trek.
I totally agree with that. And this episode, now I'm thinking about it, is probably one of the best Star Trek episodes to deal with pets,
Oh, here. Absolutely.
So I remember hearing something, and maybe it was from the animated series book by our friend Aaron Harvey, that, there was some worry, or maybe that, because of Saturday mornings, like, are kids going to be okay watching a pet dying, but yeah, it was a very emotional, touching scene. And I liked Ichea. Yeah.
Well, my final one for the main list, before we get to the ones that you're thinking of and the honorable mentions here, is, of course, a pet that we see in many, many, many episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation, but very rarely mentioned, very rarely acknowledged, and that is Livingston, the lionfish that Picard keeps in his ready room. So a different kind of pet. I know there's a lot of fish owners out there, and I want to acknowledge that those relationships can be meaningful as well, for sure. So basically we see this fish for most of the series. A little bit of controversy surrounding the fish. I know Patrick Stewart apparently wasn't a fan of Picard keeping a fish in his ready room, thinking it was like in the future they wouldn't entrap animals like that. But The decision was apparently made to keep it around over his probably not too vociferous objections, but we do know he has mentioned that he was displeased with that idea.
Yeah, I do remember hearing that. But then, the fish was killed, right? When the Enterprise D crashed. I'm assuming that's when Livingston stopped being living.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we see the fish tank at the end of Generations and it looks like dark and empty. So
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he survived and he just got moved before then, before we see Picard and Riker cleaning up the ready room. I don't know. I hope he lived.
Or maybe Spot got to him.
Oh, no. Oh.
Ship crashes and Spot's like, opportunity, and went in and ate the fish, and then the fish changed Spot's sex. So there you go.
Again. Oh, no. There you go. Yeah. So, Bruce, for main pets, were there any that you wanted to add to the list that I haven't thought of?
I mean, I don't know if the ones I'm thinking of are considered main pets. I would say not.
Okay. So we can include them with the honorable mentions here.
Yeah.
And most of these are ones that we see once or maybe aren't that important, I guess. I don't want to say that. Every pet is important. But maybe they belong to somebody who's not really a main character or something like that. And that's the case for the first one on the list, which is Commander Krug from Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. Beside his captain's chair, he had this really big, ugly dog thing. And he seemed quite distraught when this pet died during his attack on the Enterprise. So I just wanted to give a little shout out here. A Klingon and his dog, that's an important relationship.
Yeah, because this is the only Klingon dog we've seen, right?
Yeah, if you don't count targs, and I don't think this is meant to be a targ.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
He looks quite a bit different.
Yeah, and he didn't get a name, right? So,
nope, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I mean, he's not prominent. He's there, but he's not a big piece of the movie.
But, we're right there with Krug when he's very upset over the death of this pet. So
yeah, but he didn't start screaming the death to the
yeah,
Stovacor.
Yeah, he should have opened the dog's eyes and yelled to the heavens. Yeah. Well, next on this list we have Christina.
I have no idea who this is.
Okay, I was curious about this. So, season 6 TNG episode Realm of Fear. And this is the episode where Reg Barclay is afraid of using the transporter and is seeing things in the transporter and stuff. At the end of that episode, Miles O'Brien, the transporter chief at the time, reveals to Barclay that he had a phobia as well. And that phobia was of spiders. But now he has a pet tarantula named Christina. And we see this tarantula at the very end of the episode, and it crawls its way up Barclay's arm, and hilarity ensues and stuff. So that's Christina. And we never see her again. We never get her mentioned on Deep Space Nine. Don't know if she came with him to DS9 or anything like that. This is the only mention we ever have of Christina.
Well, that just shows if there's a pet of Reg Barclay's, I don't remember.
Well, this is Miles O'Brien's pet.
Oh, this is Miles. Yeah. Well, anytime Barclay's involved, I guess I don't remember the pet. So, but yeah, I'm looking at right now, Realm of Fear, that episode. Yes, I see that here on Memory Alpha. So good call. Yep, I would not have remembered this one at all.
Well, the next one you probably remember. It's in a few episodes, but I put it on the honorable mentions because Phlox explicitly says that she's not a pet. But I think she's kind of a pet, and that's Phlox's Pyrithian bat. So we know Phlox keeps a menagerie of animals for medicinal purposes, and this particular bat he even talks to at times, and every once in a while she gets out of her cage and Phlox has to lure her back into her cage. Probably most prominently seen in the episode A Night in Sickbay. I don't know how popular the episode is. I know a lot of people hate it. Some people like it. That's all put aside. But yeah, Phlox's Pyrithian bat, I think, deserves a little bit of a shout out.
That's good. That bat deserves its own comic too. If Porthos got one, the bat deserves one too. Especially since Halloween's right around the corner. Yeah, no, that's good. Because, yeah, Phlox has a bunch of creatures. And, yes, this one he's particularly fond of, for sure.
Well, I'm going to jump around on this a little bit because in the same episode that we learned about Tasha Yar's cat, we also learn about Worf's targ, and we get to see this targ manifest itself on the bridge. And there's a particular reason I wanted to bring up this targ. And again, this is in the episode Where No One Has Gone Before from the first season. But this particular animal was played by a pig, maybe a boar, I can't remember. But this animal left its mark on Star Trek because apparently while filming this episode, there was a small bit of urination happened.
No way. I don't think I've heard this.
Yep. On the Enterprise bridge, on the carpet. And apparently that stain is there for a little while and can be, I've not seen it, but it's been said that it can be seen in other episodes until the carpet is changed. So that's the power of Worf's power of thought, right? Because this animal only manifests itself because of the area of space they're in. But Worf's memories of this animal are so strong that the mark that it leaves on the bridge in his imagination stays there afterwards.
That's some powerful imagination. It stains the carpet. That's a good one. Gosh. Okay, I didn't know about the peeing on this is why, folks, they decided to remaster TNG in HD. So you can clearly see the mark from the targ.
Definitely. Absolutely. Well, another one I wanted to bring up is Leonard. And this is the only one on the list that I had to look up because I could not remember his name. And do you know where Leonard is from?
Oh, man. I don't. I saw this popping up on the notes right when we were going to record. So this is like a last minute thing that you came up with. I keep thinking of Leonard Nimoy, of course. I'm thinking, so it must be named after him in a sense. So can I guess the series or where Leonard might appear?
Sure, absolutely.
Leonard. Is this... Oh, gosh. I have no idea. This isn't in TOS, right? No. I'm going to say, is it an Enterprise?
No.
Voyager.
Yes.
Voyager. And is this an Earthbound pet?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Who's Leonard?
Okay. Well, Master of Holography, Dr. Louis Zimmerman, lives on Jupiter Station. And on Jupiter Station, he has a number of hologram companions, one of whom there's a lizard named Leonard that he has created as a hologram. Leonard is notable for being a bit of a mimic. That's what I remember from the episode where Deanna Troi yells at both the Doctor and Louis Zimmerman and says, "You're both jerks." And she storms out. And Leonard is there and he says, "Jerks."
Wow. So that just popped into your head right before we recorded.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to admit I was straining my brain to think which ones that I missed that you might have come up with. And I was like, oh, maybe it was that lizard and I couldn't remember his name. So I did have to look him up.
Nice. That's a good one. I'm sure we're going to miss something,
Oh, I'm sure we are. This isn't going to be a definitive list, but yeah, I'm sure we've missed a few. The last one that's on my honorable mentions list. And actually I did think of another one, but I'll put that aside in case it's the one you thought
I've thought of two more.
Ooh, okay. Well, on the honorable mentions, we have Khan's Seti Eel from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Now, the reason I put this on the list, because obviously he uses it as a torture device and all this stuff, not really a pet, but he outright says to Chekhov and Terrell before he puts the young of this creature in their ears, he says, "These are pets, of course. Not quite domesticated." So he calls them pets. So I put him on the list here.
I think that counts. When I saw this on the list, I'm like, really? These things aren't pets. And then I'm like, oh no, wait, he does call them pets. So
that's literally the only reason they're on the list,
yes.
Because of Khan's little bit of a quip there.
Yep. I think that definitely counts. That's not a pet that I want though.
No, not so much.
I'll feed it to a snake, but that's about it.
So the one that I thought of, and I'm curious if this is one of the ones that you thought of.
Okay.
There's a plant in Star Trek, the original series, in a scene with Sulu and Rand. And they argue a bit about whether it's a boy or a girl plant. So they have different names for it, but one of them is Beauregard. I can't remember the other name, but it's that silly plant in the episode The Man Trap. I think the very first aired episode, and it's very obviously like a hand in a pink glove coming out of a green thing.
Yeah.
And I think Sulu calls it a pet.
Okay.
I think.
That's not one I was thinking of.
Okay.
Would that count as a pet? Maybe. Yeah, if he calls it his pet or whatever. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Again, I would not have come up with that one. That just makes me believe, yeah, we're going to miss something, of course.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I love when we do these things because then I'm always like, oh, I can't think of anything else. And maybe I think of one thing. And I was so proud before we recorded because I was like, oh, I think I've thought of one that's not on Dan's list. And it's like, I expect Dan to think of everything that, and that he'll think of everything that I would think of and more. But yet I thought of one. And now as we record, I think of more. Actually, there was one. Let me back up. Before I revealed this one, there was another one that I thought was on your list, but then I realized it's not. And it was one of the first pets. When you brought this topic to me, it was one of the first pets I thought of. So when I saw your list and it said the dog, I thought, well, maybe that's what this is. And I'm thinking of the canine from The Enemy Within.
Okay.
So when I saw your list said the dog, I was like, that's probably what he means by the dog, is that little, and I just looked it up. It's the Alpha 177 canine that they beam up. Because when you said Star Trek pets, it was one of the first ones that popped in my mind because I always thought it was cute.
That's a good call. It did pop into my head. I didn't even put it on the honorable mentions list, but I maybe should have. Yeah, it definitely would count. It's I think they call it a sample of the life forms of the planet or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, somebody must have inherited. I guess both of them died though when it split.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, technically it wasn't anybody's pet. So, but it's played by a dog, which is a pet. That's why I thought of it. So
that's true. I bet I know what one of your other ones is, by the way, thinking of the original series. So,
well, the other ones I'm thinking are not in the original series. So now I want to know what you're thinking.
Well, I did mention that I had a cat named Tribble, and the Tribbles did start out as Uhura's pet that she bought there. So I could count that, I think.
I think absolutely those should be on the top. Why didn't I even think of it? Yeah, Tribbles, they're pets on Star Trek for sure. Absolutely 100%, if not the most famous pets from Star Trek. That's true. Right? So, duh. I could just hear people like, you guys finally caught up. I've been saying all along.
Right?
Tribbles.
Oh, my God. Dan even said Tribble at the start of the episode with his cat name.
Yeah, that's so strange that we didn't think of it that way. I think because we're thinking of pets that we see, like, I don't know, like on Earth, the dogs and cats and things, but then yet we mentioned some other things. I don't know. Good call. I'm glad you got that in here. Okay, so I woke up this morning and I thought, well, what pets do I like in Star Trek? I'm laying in bed and I'm just like, I knew we were going to talk about this and I thought, what are some of my favorite pets that I thought are really cute? And this one popped in my head almost immediately. It's like, oh yeah, I always thought this was so cute, but I wasn't sure of the name. And I looked it up and I noticed it's not on your list, but it's from Star Trek Insurrection. The little the little worm-like thing on the Batu planet.
The little pocket pet,
I
think is what the production people called it. Yeah.
I always thought it was so cute. I always loved that little guy.
Oh, good catch. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, Artem's little pet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's it. So that's the one that I was so proud of that I came up with that wasn't on your list.
Very nicely done. Yeah.
So as we were recording, I came up with some more. But I don't know if you'd really consider this a pet per se, but I'm just kind of throwing it out there as like an honorable mention. But George and Gracie.
I was wondering if you'd mention them.
It's like they're not really pets, but they were kind of Jillian Taylor's pets in a sense.
Kind of. They're sentient creatures. Right. It has to be acknowledged. They're intelligent beings. And as Spock says, they are not the hell your whales. But
right.
I can see it. It passed through my mind, but I guess we did put the dog from Lower Decks on there as well, and she seems to be a sentient creature as well.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's why it's kind of loose, but she, Jillian was taking care of them and felt ownership towards them, and that's so. But yeah, that popped in my mind as we were talking. But yeah, I wouldn't really consider them pets. But like I said, just kind of an honorable mention, just like this last one that came up to mind. It's not technically a pet, but I think Janeway thought the monkey, in a sense, was kind of her pet.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen that episode in ages. That's a good call. Resolutions, I believe, is the episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chakotay, look, it's the monkey again.
Oh, that's a good call. That's a good call. Cool. That's a great list. I mean, I think we pretty much exhausted Star Trek pets, although I'm sure there's some out there. There's some one-offs that, there's when Archer vacations on Risa and the Tendaran agent who grills him for information, her little dog, I think his name is Rilo or something like that. There's all kinds of little one-off pets as well, like not of main characters. I'm hoping there's nothing glaring that we've missed.
Like the Trill. I mean, not the Trill, like the Tribbles. I would say the Trill. No, Trill are not pets. Like the Tribble, that was a glaring. That definitely is one.
We got there eventually.
Yeah, but what was it Glomer, the things that ate the Tribbles?
Oh yeah.
Is that a pet?
Could be maybe from More Tribbles, More Troubles. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's an interesting thought.
I'm surprised Wesley didn't have a pet.
Maybe the nanites?
Yeah. I'm also surprised Jake didn't have a pet either.
Oh yeah. There's a creature called a Corvan Gilvos that it's this weird little puppety creature that we see in the Next Generation. And then we see it later when Quark becomes the Nagus briefly in the season 1 Deep Space Nine episode, The Nagus, and they're doing like a take on the scene from The Godfather where he's got the pet in his
yes.
and it's that thing. So there's that.
Yeah, we could probably think of more if we sat here for a while. Little things like that. Yeah.
Well, is there anything out there in our audience that you can think of that we totally missed? Please let us know. Reach out to us, positivelytrek@gmail.com. Join us on our Facebook discussion group at the Positively Trek discussion group, or reach out to us on Twitter @positivelytrek or on Instagram, also @positivelytrek. And Bruce, when you're not wondering how the heck you can get a dog that won't upset your wife's allergies, where can we find you?
Actually, I think there are dogs that she might not be that are, whatever. You can find me on Twitter @Admiral_Rex. That's Admiral with the underline Rex. And you can find me on the Star Wars Report occasionally and Literary Treks occasionally.
Awesome. And you can find me on Twitter @Kurtrats, on youtube.com/Kurtrats Productions. And of course, as I mentioned, in the Positively Trek discussion group, my favorite hangout on the internet. So thank you all so much for listening this week. We're going to have a book club episode for you coming soon with book 1 of Coda by Dayton Ward. We're excited to have him on the show to talk about it, so stay tuned for that. And thank you so much to the Patreon supporters for all of your help in bringing these episodes to you. We could not do it without you. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, as always, stay positive. Oh, shoot. There was one thing I was going to mention. I was going to put Captain Picard on the list because Data says about Q, he says, your relationship with Q has always been analogous to one between an owner and his beloved pet. And everybody looks at him and he's like, that was only an analogy, sir.
That's a good call right there.